Playing crazy. The insanity defense. Picture this. You're in court. The evidence against you is overwhelming. Everyone knows you did it. So what do? You start acting crazy. The insanity defense is one of the oldest tricks in criminal history, and here's why it's so tempting. If the court believes you were mentally insane when you committed the crime, you might avoid prison entirely. Instead, you'd go to a mental hospital. Sounds like an easy out, right? Just pretend to hear voices, act confused, maybe drool a little. Wrong. Courts have seen this act a million times. They bring in psychiatrists who are trained to spot fakers. These doctors will ask you tricky questions, watch how you behave when you think no one's looking, and compare your symptoms to real mental illnesses. Let me give you an example. There was a guy who pretended to have amnesia during his trial. He couldn't remember anything. His name, where he lived, nothing. But then investigators caught him on a prison phone call, perfectly remembering details about his case and planning his defense. Busted. Here's the legal truth. Being insane doesn't just mean acting weird. It means you literally couldn't tell right from wrong when you committed the crime. Your brain has to be so broken that you didn't understand you were doing something bad. And even if you do convince the court, mental hospitals aren't vacation resorts. Some people stay there longer than they would have stayed in prison. But what if you can't fake crazy? Some criminals use something even simpler, their own body. Faking death, the ultimate disappearing act. Imagine this. The police are closing in. You're about to be arrested. So you decide to disappear forever by faking your own death. This actually happens more than you'd think. Criminals have staged drownings by leaving their clothes on a beach with a fake suicide note. They've faked car crashes by putting bodies in burning vehicles. They've even bribed corrupt officials to issue fake death certificates. One famous case involved a guy who faked a canoeing accident. He left his canoe in the ocean, and everyone thought he drowned. Meanwhile, he was secretly living in another country under a fake name. He almost got away with it too, until his wife accidentally appeared in a photo with him years later. The internet did its thing, and boom, he was caught. Here's why faking death is incredibly hard now. Digital footprints. Every time you use a credit card, post on social media, or even walk past a security camera, you leave a trace. Plus, DNA testing and facial recognition technology make it nearly impossible to start a new life. And think about the reality of it. You can never contact your family again, never use your real name, never go back to your hometown. You're basically in prison anyway, except this prison is the entire world, and you're always looking over your shoulder. Most people who fake their deaths eventually slip up. They get homesick and call a relative. They try to access old bank accounts, or they simply get recognized. Death might be hard to fake, but there's one thing criminals can destroy in seconds: evidence. Destroying the evidence. Eat, burn, hide. When the police knock on your door, you've got maybe 30 seconds to hide the evidence. So what do criminals do? They get creative, really creative. Some swallow it, literally. Drug dealers have been known to gulp down bags of narcotics when cops show up. There are cases of people swallowing SIM cards, memory cards, even pieces of paper with incriminating passwords. But here's the problem. Police know this trick. They can take you to a hospital and do an X-ray, and then you're sitting there waiting for nature to take its course, while officers literally wait for you to poop out the evidence. Awkward? Absolutely. Effective? You bet. Others try burning documents or hard drives, but modern forensics can often recover data from burned or smashed devices. There are specialists who can pull information from melted hard drives or shredded papers. Some hide evidence in insane places, inside walls, buried in yards, sewn into furniture. One criminal hid a gun inside a fake leg. Another buried diamonds in a fish tank. The creativity is honestly impressive. But here's the catch. Destroying evidence is its own crime. It's called obstruction of justice, and it can add years to your sentence. Plus, investigators are trained to think like criminals. They know all the hiding spots. They bring in dogs that can smell electronics or drugs through walls. They use ground-penetrating radar to find buried items. There's a famous case where someone ate a diamond during a robbery. Police waited 3 days, collected everything, and found it. The criminal went to jail and had the world's worst bathroom experience. But what if the evidence is your own face? Some criminals have a disturbing solution: changing your face, surgery, and disguises. Your face is everywhere. Wanted posters, security footage, witness descriptions. So some criminals think, what if I just change my face? Back in the 1930s, famous gangster John Dillinger allegedly tried to alter his fingerprints with acid and got plastic surgery to change his appearance. Spoiler alert, he still got shot by FBI agents who recognized him. In modern times, criminals have tried everything: plastic surgery to change their nose or jawline, removing tattoos, even attempting to burn off their own fingerprints. It's painful, expensive, and usually doesn't work. Why? Because changing your face isn't like the movies. You can't just walk into a clinic and walk out looking like a different person. Real plastic surgery takes months of healing, leaves scars, and often doesn't change enough to fool facial recognition technology. Modern facial recognition doesn't just look at your nose or eyes. It measures the distance between features, analyzes bone structure, and creates a mathematical map of your face that's nearly impossible to change without extreme surgery. Some criminals try realistic masks during crimes. These are actually pretty effective in the moment, but security cameras are getting sharper. And if investigators find the mask, your DNA is all over the inside of it. There's also the psychological aspect. Imagine looking in the mirror and seeing a stranger. That kind of identity loss messes with your head. Plus, hospitals and plastic surgeons keep records. If police are looking for you and you suddenly get major facial surgery, that's a red flag that investigators will find. Changing your face is extreme, but some criminals don't need to. They have an identical twin. The twin defense, double trouble. Imagine being arrested for a crime you didn't commit. Your alibi is solid, but there's one problem. You have an identical twin, and they're the actual criminal. Or flip it around. You're guilty, but you blame your innocent twin. This has actually happened, and it creates a legal nightmare. For years, DNA testing couldn't tell identical twins apart. They share the exact same genetic code, so if DNA evidence was found at a crime scene, both twins were technically suspects. There's a case where a woman was assaulted, and DNA evidence pointed to one of two brothers, identical twins. Both denied it. Both had weak alibis. The prosecution couldn't prove which one did it, so neither was convicted. The victim never got justice. Courts have tried everything, looking at fingerprints which are different between twins, checking phone records, analyzing behavioral patterns. Modern DNA testing can now sometimes tell twins apart by looking at tiny genetic mutations, but it's expensive and not always available. Some twins have used this as the perfect alibi. One commits the crime while the other is somewhere public with witnesses. When police investigate, both twins point at each other, creating reasonable doubt. But here's where it gets dark. Sometimes the innocent twin gets blamed. Imagine going to prison for something your sibling did, and you can't prove your innocence because you look exactly like the guilty person. Judges and juries now look at more than just DNA. They examine digital footprints, whose phone was near the crime scene, who made suspicious purchases, whose social media shows relevant behavior. Twins can confuse investigators, but what about confusing the entire legal system with paperwork? Legal loopholes, exploiting the system. The legal system has thousands of rules, and where there are rules, there are loopholes. Smart criminals, or more accurately, smart defense lawyers, spend their careers finding technicalities that can get cases thrown out. Here's a real example. Evidence collected without a proper warrant, thrown out. Police forget to read someone their Miranda rights, case dismissed. A witness lies under oath, everything they said becomes questionable. There's a famous case where a criminal walked free because police searched his car without permission. They found drugs, weapons, everything. But because the search was illegal, none of it could be used in court. The guy was obviously guilty, but the law protected him. Then there's double jeopardy. This means you can't be tried twice for the same crime. So if you're found not guilty, even if new evidence appears later proving you did it, you can't be tried again. That's why prosecutors are super careful about bringing charges. They only get one shot. Some criminals exploit mental competency hearings. They claim they're not mentally fit to stand trial, which delays everything for months or years. Some have dragged this out so long that witnesses disappear or evidence gets lost. There are even people called sovereign citizens who believe they're not subject to laws. They file bizarre legal documents, refuse to recognize the court's authority, and quote obscure maritime laws. Spoiler, judges are not impressed, and these tactics basically never work. But here's the truth. For every loophole, prosecutors have a counter-strategy. They work with judges to close gaps. They're trained in every trick defense lawyers might use. But all the legal tricks in the world won't help if you're already in prison. That's when escape plans get creative. Prison Escapes Part 1. Digging Out. You're in a concrete cell. Guards patrol every hour. Security cameras watch your every move. So you decide, I'm going to dig my way out. This sounds like a movie, but it's happened more times than you'd think. The most famous case is probably the 1962 Alcatraz escape. 3 inmates spent months digging through their cell walls using sharpened spoons and a makeshift drill. They made fake dummy heads to fool guards during night checks. They built a raft from raincoats, and one night they vanished into the San Francisco Bay. Their bodies were never found, and nobody knows if they survived. More recently, drug lord El Chapo escaped through a tunnel that was over a mile long. His crew dug it from outside the prison, right under his shower. It had lighting, ventilation, and even a motorcycle on rails. That's not an escape, that's an engineering project. But here's what movies don't show you. Digging tunnels takes forever. We're talking months or years of digging a few inches every night. You have to hide the dirt somewhere, usually in exercise yards or flush down toilets. You need tools, which means bribing guards or stealing from prison workshops. And modern prisons know all about tunnels. They have ground sensors that detect vibrations. They do random cell checks. They X-ray walls. Some prisons have multiple layers of reinforced concrete specifically designed to stop digging. Most tunnel attempts fail. Either guards discover them mid-dig, or the tunnel collapses, or the escapee gets stuck and has to call for help. Tunnels take forever. Some prisoners choose a faster route, straight over the walls. Prison Escapes, Part 2, Over the Walls. If you can't go under, go over. In 2013, 2 prisoners in Quebec literally escaped via helicopter. Someone flew a chopper right into the prison yard, the inmates climbed aboard, and they flew away. Police caught them later, but for a moment they pulled off an action movie escape. Others have scaled fences using makeshift ladders or ropes. Some have cut through chain link with smuggled wire cutters. There are even cases of prisoners hiding in delivery trucks or garbage trucks leaving the prison. One guy escaped by simply walking out wearing a guard's uniform. He'd been working in the laundry, stole a uniform, and casually strolled past security. He was caught 2 days later at a fast food restaurant. Here's why these escapes are so rare now. Modern prison security is insane. There are motion sensors on every fence, towers with armed guards watching 24/7. No-fly zones over prisons mean helicopters trigger immediate responses. Every vehicle leaving the prison is searched. Guards literally check inside trash bags and under truck beds. Plus, even if you do escape, then what? You're wearing prison clothes or stolen clothes. You have no money, no ID, and your face is about to be on every news channel. Police set up roadblocks. They notify every nearby business. Your family's house is watched. Most escapees are caught within 48 hours, usually because they're desperate, stealing food, breaking into houses, or trying to contact loved ones. But what if you never make it to prison? Some criminals try to vanish before trial even starts. Becoming a fugitive, running forever. You skip bail. You run before sentencing. Now you're a fugitive, and the manhunt begins. Life on the run sounds exciting, but the reality is a nightmare. First, you need a fake identity. That means fake IDs, fake passports, fake social security numbers. You can't use credit cards because they're traceable. It's cash only, which means constantly finding illegal work. You can't stay in hotels that require ID. You can't rent apartments with background checks. You're basically living in cheap motels, friends' couches, or abandoned buildings. Every time you see a police car, your heart stops. Every time someone looks at you twice, you wonder if they recognize you. You can't post on social media. You can't call family without using untraceable burner phones. Some fugitives have survived for years like this. There's a guy who evaded capture for over a decade by constantly moving between rural areas, working odd jobs under fake names, and avoiding cameras. But here's how most fugitives get caught. They slip up. They call mom on her birthday. They return to their hometown for a funeral. They trust the wrong person who turns them in for reward money. Modern technology makes this even harder. Facial recognition at airports and train stations. License plate readers on highways. Social media algorithms that can identify people even in group photos. Interpol coordinates international manhunts. If you flee to another country, that country can extradite you back. There are very few places on Earth where you can actually hide forever. Running is exhausting, so some criminals try something sneakier, hacking the system itself. Digital age tricks, hacking justice. Welcome to the 21st century, where criminals try to hack their way out of justice. Some criminals try to delete digital evidence, smashing phones, wiping hard drives, factory resetting computers. But here's what they don't know. Deleted doesn't mean gone. Forensic specialists can recover data from damaged devices. Even permanently deleted files leave traces. More sophisticated criminals use encryption. They lock their devices with codes that even police can't crack. This has led to legal battles. Can the government force you to unlock your phone? Courts are still figuring this out. Then there are the really bold ones who try to hack into police or court databases. There have been cases of people bribing IT staff to alter arrest records or delete warrants. One guy actually hacked into the court's computer system and changed his sentence from years to months. He got caught when someone noticed the suspicious edit. Deepfakes are the newest threat. Imagine creating a fake video showing you were somewhere else when the crime happened, or using AI to fake someone else's voice in a confession. Technology that can exonerate could also be used to deceive. Social media is both a gift and a curse for criminals. Some try to create fake alibis by posting pre-scheduled content. Look, I was on vacation when the crime happened, but investigators check metadata, the time, location, and device information hidden in every post. Here's the reality. For every digital trick, there's a cybercrime unit trained to counter it. They can trace IP addresses, recover encrypted files with warrants, and spot digital manipulation. Tech-savvy criminals think they're clever, but there's one old-school method that still sometimes works. Bribes. Corruption. Buying your way out. Money talks, and sometimes it whispers to the right people to make problems disappear. Corruption is the darkest way criminals cheat justice because it doesn't just let one person escape, it breaks the entire system. It starts small. A criminal offers a cop money to lose evidence. They bribe a witness to change their testimony or suddenly forget what they saw. They pay off a judge to give a lighter sentence. In countries with weaker legal systems, this happens regularly. But even in developed nations, corruption exists. There are documented cases of police officers taking bribes to tip off drug dealers about raids, lawyers who bribe jury members, even judges who've been caught taking money to rule certain ways. One famous case involved a judge who was literally selling justice. He took bribes from the juvenile detention industry to send kids to jail, even for minor offenses, because the facilities paid him for every child sentenced. He destroyed countless lives for profit. But here's how corruption gets exposed. Someone always talks. A guilty conscience, a jealous partner, or someone who didn't get their cut. Whistleblowers come forward. Undercover investigations catch people on tape accepting money. When corruption is exposed, the penalties are severe. We're talking decades in federal prison. The criminal who bribed officials gets charged, but so do the officials who took the money. Everyone goes down together. Anti-corruption task forces use sting operations, where they pretend to be criminals offering bribes and record everything. They audit financial records looking for unexplained wealth. They protect whistleblowers who report corruption. Money can buy a lot, but it can't buy back time. Some criminals try one last desperate move in the courtroom itself. Courtroom chaos. Dramatic last stands. The trial is going badly. The jury looks convinced of your guilt. You're out of options. So you cause chaos. Some defendants have literally attacked their own lawyers in court. Others have lunged at witnesses or judges. There are cases of people faking heart attacks or seizures to delay trials. One guy literally drank poison in court right after his guilty verdict was read. He died hours later. Another defendant tried to escape by jumping out of a courtroom window. He broke both legs in the fall and was immediately recaptured. Some criminals fire their lawyers mid-trial and choose to represent themselves, thinking they can outsmart the system. This almost never works because knowing the law and understanding the law are different things. They make procedural mistakes that hurt their case even more. There's a tactic called disruption where defendants repeatedly interrupt proceedings, shout at judges, or refuse to cooperate. The goal? Create a mistrial by making it impossible for the trial to continue fairly. But judges have seen this before. They can have the defendant removed and the trial continues without them in the room. Some try the sympathy approach, crying, apologizing, claiming they found religion. While genuine remorse can impact sentencing, judges and juries are trained to see through manipulative performances. The truth is, dramatic courtroom behavior usually backfires. It makes you look unstable and guilty. Juries lose sympathy. Judges add extra charges for contempt of court. Even after all these tricks, most criminals still end up caught. But how? Why? These tricks fail. The science of catching criminals. So we've covered every major trick criminals use. The question is, why do most of them fail? The answer is simple: science and human nature. Let's start with forensics. DNA evidence can identify someone from a single hair or drop of blood. Fingerprints are unique to every person. Digital forensics can recover deleted data, trace online activity, and pinpoint locations through cell towers. Even if you destroy your phone, investigators can get records from your service provider. Even if you wear gloves, you might leave fibers from your clothes. Even if you disguise your face, you can't hide your body language, gait, or voice patterns. Then there's the human factor. Criminals make mistakes because they're stressed, scared, and desperate. They forget small details. They trust the wrong people. They get overconfident and slip up. There's a psychological principle called criminal recontact. It means most criminals eventually contact someone from their old life, a parent, a friend, an ex. That's when police catch them. Emotion overrides logic. Modern law enforcement also has incredible cooperation. Interpol connects police forces across 194 countries. The FBI has databases with millions of fingerprints, DNA profiles, and facial recognition data. If you're wanted in one state and arrested in another, the system flags you immediately. Informants are another huge factor. Most criminals don't work alone, and when accomplices get caught, they often make deals, testify against the others for a reduced sentence. Honor among thieves is a myth. Advanced technology is constantly improving. AI can now analyze thousands of hours of security footage in minutes. Satellites can track vehicles. Social media algorithms can identify people even when they're trying to hide. So after all this, is there actually any way to cheat justice? The truth: justice, almost, always wins. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Yes, some criminals do get away with it. Not many, but some. They're usually not the dramatic ones. They're not faking deaths or digging tunnels. They're the ones who commit crimes that leave no evidence, no witnesses, and no trace. Or they're protected by corruption that never gets exposed. But these cases are the rare exception, not the rule. Statistics show that over 90% of escapees are recaptured, most within days. DNA databases have solved cold cases from decades ago. International cooperation means there are fewer and fewer places to hide. Here's what every failed escape attempt teaches us. The justice system learns. When someone fakes an insanity defense, psychiatrists get better at spotting it. When someone digs a tunnel, prisons add ground sensors. Every crime leads to better laws, better technology, and better training. The real victims in all of this are the people harmed by these crimes. While criminals are planning escapes, victims and their families are waiting for accountability, for closure, for justice. Society depends on consequences. Without them, there's no deterrent, there's no safety, there's no trust in the system. And here's the saddest part. All the energy, creativity, and intelligence that criminals pour into escaping justice could have been used for good. That person who spent months digging a tunnel, they could have been an engineer. The hacker who tried to delete their records, they could have been in cybersecurity. So is there a way to truly cheat justice? Maybe temporarily, but the cost is living in fear, isolation, and paranoia for the rest of your life. That's not freedom. That's just a different kind of prison. Most criminals eventually get caught because of one simple truth. It's harder to run than it is to hide, and it's harder to hide than it is to simply face the consequences.